Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's industry orientation for the new aftermarket service that is called Aftermarket Match. My name's Chris Gardner. I'm Vice President for Programs and Member Services at AASA. And I'm joined today by Scott Luckett, Chief Information Officer at AAIA, and Jeff Marshall, Director of Business Development at PriceTech Software. We're very excited because today's webinar represents a major step in the aftermarket's efforts to standardize how it conducts e-commerce, data sharing, and other transactional activities. Before we get started, we have just a few words about our WebEx today, or our webinar. First, all the lines are muted, and we have a fairly short presentation. And we would encourage you to submit questions by way of the chat box that's in your panel. We're going to allow time at the end of the presentation for all of us to address as many of your questions as possible. So please submit them as we go, again, by using the chat box. Now, our goal for the next 30 to 45 minutes is to ensure that you understand the purpose of Aftermarket Match, how it works, how it will benefit you and your company, and the simplicity of getting started. So with that, let's get started. The website, www.aftermarketmatch.com, addresses a universal problem between manufacturers and suppliers and then their wholesale and retail trading partners. That is, that regardless of the product category or the size of the business, both sides of a trading partner relationship have got to understand and synchronize with the e-commerce and data standards capabilities of each other. Now, I don't think there's any surprise to anybody that that's a challenge we continue to face. Now, suppliers such as our friend Joe Pomeransky from Tenneco face a mountain of customer demands for conducting transactions electronically and exchanging e-catalog and product information. Suppliers need to know the e-commerce and data requirements of their trading partners so they can plan their technology initiatives in a way that, as Joe says, gets the biggest bang for the buck. Now, on the other side of the trading relationship, you have the customers. So automotive distributors and retailers like Advance Auto Parts increasingly are relying on investments in technology and in industry standards as a way to differentiate and to have a competitive advantage. The resellers benefit from visibility into the e-commerce and data standards capabilities of the suppliers. It saves them time and helps them make better informed decisions about their IT investment ROI. And, of course, everybody these days are looking for how much ROI they're going to generate from their technology investments. So this sets the stage and brings us to the need for Aftermarket Match. Now, what I'm going to do is turn this over because to take us through the background and the purpose and benefits of Aftermarket Match, I'm going to turn it over to Scott Luckett from AAIA. So, Scott, you have the virtual floor.
Thank you, Chris, and good morning, everyone. Aftermarket Match is a fairly simple tool with a potentially powerful benefit to the aftermarket industry. Visibility into who uses what will accelerate the adoption of all e-commerce and aftermarket data standards. Increased adoption of all standards saves development time. It reduces the cost of adoption and offers a variety of benefits, including increased sales and reduced returns. The goal of Aftermarket Match is to make it easier for suppliers to learn the technical requirements of their trading partners. Similarly, Aftermarket Match offers visibility and makes it easier for the resellers to see the capabilities of their current and prospective suppliers. All of us at AAIA and AASA support increased awareness and utilization of the tool. It's a virtuous cycle that'll drive further adoption of the standards and benefit the industry we serve. Aftermarket Match is based upon the goals and objectives of the original AASA e-commerce matrix. Now that service is no longer available, and it is replaced by Aftermarket Match. The website was born out of a collaboration between AASA and AAIA formed at Apex in 2011, when we realized that members of both organizations would benefit from the visibility and transparency of such a website. Industry oversight and guidance was provided by an executive committee representative of the industry. Branding and marketing concepts were developed by AAIA, and the Aftermarket Match technology has been developed and powered by PriceDex software as a pro bono contribution to the industry. We were very pleased to be able to roll out the new site at Apex this past fall. There are just a few design decisions that we want to point out and draw your attention to, especially if you were an original user of the e-commerce matrix. Aftermarket Match recognizes that trading partner relationships are complex, and there's no one more qualified to decide what data to share with others than the trading partners themselves. So Aftermarket Match relies on reciprocal agreements between two parties, any two parties for that matter, before the details of their requirements or capabilities are shared. Think of it as friending between two parties in a trusted e-commerce business relationship. The website has been updated with all of the latest versions of the most widely used open industry standards. And to streamline the experience, all of the field level detail has been removed for all of the specifications with the exception of pies. And you'll see why that's important in a few moments. Legacy content in the original matrix was found to be out of date and was removed. So this is a completely fresh start. And the matching functionality has been improved with email confirmations and regular reminder messages. Before we take you into the site, let me just describe the 5 easy steps involved in finding your e-commerce match. Step 1 is to register as a user on the site. This only requires basic contact information and allows you to designate the primary user for your company. That is someone who can change data, as well as other users. They can only read data. You must respond to the email confirmation message to complete your registration and demonstrate that you're a real person. Step 2 is to set up your sending and receiving capabilities. As a manufacturer, you might indicate that you can send ACES in version 3.0, as well as trade 3 popular EDI documents in version 4010, for example. Step 3 is to identify your trading partners in the system and request a match with them. Email messages will make them aware of your request, and you'll be notified via email when they accept the invitation. Step 4 is then to manage your company matches. You'll have complete control at all times over who can see your standards capabilities. Step 5 is to review your personalized trading partner match report. Green checks will indicate where you and your partners are aligned. Red X's indicate a requirement that you are not satisfying. Your initial setup in Aftermarket Match should only take a few minutes. But as more companies complete their standards profile, the power and benefits of the system will grow exponentially. Just like a Yellow Pages directory, the more listings inside, the greater the value and the greater the usage of the directory. Now I'd like to invite Jeff Marshall of PriceDex Software to step us through the basic functionality of Aftermarket Match and illustrate the 5 steps I just described. Again, remember, as Chris said, to submit your questions via the chat box, and we'll address as many as possible at the end of Jeff's brief demonstration. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Scott. Okay, let's get to it. You heard Scott mention that there are 5 easy steps to working with AftermarketMatch.com, and we're going to take you through that now live on our demo site, which has fictitious data. So let's start with step 1, registering. Registering is a simple process. You simply go to www.aftermarketmatch.com and click on the registration link. You will note that in the registration we have some basic mandatory fields. They're marked in bold. Your email, first name, last name, and title are mandatory, along with a password that you choose. We'd also like you to fill in your company information. Someone else from your company may already have registered, and if so, you will find your company in the drop-down box. If you select from the drop-down, you don't need to fill out the company details. If your company does not exist, you will have to fill out those basics on the screen. So let's do this using the fictitious company Wiley Parts. So we will start. There is Wiley Parts, and my URL is wileyparts.com, and my address, 123 Dry Gulch Lane, and my city, Dust Bowl, and that's in Nevada, and my zip is 80111. Now I'm ready to fill in my user fields. And I must select, first of all, whether I am a primary user. As you heard Scott mention, a primary user has a responsibility to maintain the standards records for the company. You can have any number of primary users, especially if different people are responsible for maintaining different standards. If I'm not a primary user, then, as Scott mentioned, I will be able to use and access the system, see what matches my company has, and bring down reports. Back to being a primary user, I will also have the job of requesting matches and responding to match requests. Now let's put in my personal details. And my phone number, 8888. Now the last step is adding the password. So I'll do that right now and confirm it. And I'm ready to register. So just to make certain everything was properly done, I will receive a confirmation email with a link to click to activate my account. So since we are live, let's go over to my email and take a look for my confirmation message. Hopefully we won't have too much of an email lag. There is my email. And so this is what the email you receive will look like. And the email will actually have your username and your password in it for your reference. And all you have to do is click to link Activate My Account. You'll get to a success page and then redirect it back to the login. So let's go ahead and log in. Now, once I log in, I'm brought to the home page where I'm presented with a menu of options under the What Can I Do category. Let's quickly take a look at the company details page, which provides a summary of my company information and the users registered to my company. Because I am the primary user, I can control from here who else may be set as a primary user as well. I'm also provided with the basic user details such as the name, phone number, and email for all users associated with my company. That's step one. Let's move on to step two and set up our specifications. We have two choices for setting up capabilities. We can set up our receiving capabilities. This is used if we are a receiver of data. Or we can set up our sending capabilities. This is used if we send data to other companies. Some companies are both receivers and senders of data. In this circumstance, you should set up your capabilities for both sending and receiving. Now, in this demo, because I'm acting as a manufacturer, I'm interested in setting up my sending capabilities to see how I match up with receivers of data. So let's go there. As you can see by this page, I have nothing set up at the moment. So let's go through the process of setup. It's quite easy, actually. If I click the Add button, a pop-up will appear on my screen, and I am offered the choice of setting up eCatalog, EDI, network delivery, product information, and web service specifications. We'll go through all of them quickly, starting with the eCatalog. When I click on eCatalog, I am presented with the ACES standard. My choices are simple. Do I send ACES 2.0 or do I send ACES 3.0? I'll use the most current spec, ACES 3.0, and update my record. And we're done. Now, interesting to note here that the system keeps a count of all receivers capable of receiving that particular standard. This is called the industry adoption count. I get the opportunity while setting up my capabilities with each of the standards to see at a glance how many companies receive a standard or even a particular transaction. More on that later. Now let's go to EDI. Here I'm presented with a number of choices, and below those choices will be the transactions that I can send. So let's choose the G-commerce spec and select the transactions I'm capable of. Since I'm capable of sending XML, I'm going to select that. Now let's move on to network delivery method. And here I'll select G-commerce as well and update. Now let's do product information. Here I'm given a selection of choices. Let's use pies as the example. Once I select pies, I'm presented with its version to select. Let's select 6.4 and add it. Once 6.4 is added, then I can provide all the details about the pies attributes that I'm capable of sending. You will note, for speed, that I can simply check the Check All button by clicking at the top, at the box at the top. Now I can go in and edit out the attributes that I don't send. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to leave everything in pies except pricing. So I'll scroll down to pricing and quickly check off those attributes, which I do not send, and I will update. Now let's add our web services. And here I'm going to select IPO and a current version. And update. And there, within well under 10 minutes, I've now completed step 2. All my sending capabilities are logged. So let's move to step 3 and request a match. When I click on request a match, I'm presented with a screen that permits me to either request to see a company's receiving spec, or if I have my own receiving spec set up, I can select to show that spec to someone. If I request to see a receiving spec, which in the case of the manufacturer, that is what I want to do, I select the company I am requesting a match with from the drop-down box and make that request. For convenience, an email will be sent to the primary user of the receiver, notifying them that I'm requesting a match. So let's choose the Zenith company and make the request. Now, Scott is on this call as well, and he is the primary user for the Zenith company. Scott has already set up his receiving specs, and that's why he is available on the list. When someone requests a match with you, you will, as mentioned, receive an email indicating that a match has been requested. For further convenience, you won't have to log on to the system to do something with the request. You can simply choose the link in the email to accept or deny the request. Scott, will you accept my request, please? Now,
I'd be happy to, Jeff.
Thank you, Scott. I'm bringing you to the company matches page, and here actually you can see what's going on in the system. And presently, I have no companies requesting to see my specs and no companies permitting me to see their receiving specs. But all this can be controlled from the dashboard as well. So, Scott, have you accepted my request?
Jeff, I'm doing it right now.
Let me know when you're done.
I've accepted your request, Jeff.
Thank you, Scott. So, as you see now on the screen, we have Scott's acceptance of my request, and he is now permitting us to see his receiving specifications. You'll also note that as the primary user, we have the opportunity to terminate a relationship at any time. So if there's any changes in circumstances, you can end a relationship, and that works equally for a receiver of data as well as a sender of data. So, and I would do that by simply clicking the Deny button. Let's move on to step 4 now and look at how we match up. Because I am sending, or I am the sender of data, I'm going to click on the Sending Specs report. Here we will find the Zenith company in our drop-down, so let's click on that. And as you can see, the Zenith company has matching capabilities with us in we know that they have capabilities in eCatalog, EDI, network delivery, product information, and web services. So that's our first set of alignment. Let's look at a little more detail on each of these to see how we do match up. On ACES, we match up on very well on version 3.0. On EDI, we match with GCommerce SuperSpec XML. On network delivery method, we match up with GCommerce. And with IPO, we match up with version 2.0. Now let's take a little bit more of a look at the PIES standard and see how we align. Now, you have a more detailed box here, which has in its first column the data element, the second column my sending capability, and in the third column the receiving company's receiving capability. So here's the general rule of thumb. With what the columns mean in mind, if we match perfectly on a spec, you will see 2 checkboxes. If I produce something that my receiving partner says they don't need, you will see 1 checkbox in my sending spec and a blank in their receiving spec. And that's not a fatal problem. The receiver would just typically ignore the extra data that I send, or they could in turn adjust their capability to receive that data. Where the real power is when we don't match. And when we don't match, you will see a big black or a big red X and error. This is fatal. This is something my receiver is asking for, the pricing segment, which I don't send. And so therefore, this is probably something I would want to address with my data managers and make certain that I can comply to the trading partner capability. Now, I do want to make something clear at this point. AftermarketMatch.com is designed to let companies assess and know each other's data capabilities. It is not designed to identify mandatory requirements of any particular standard or any particular trading partner. It is there simply to say, I am capable of sending this data and I would like to receive this data, and therefore let the parties know how their capabilities line up. And that's actually a great segue to the final step of the process, which is to see how the industry ranks up with standards adoption. The industry adoption report gives you an opportunity to get a count on the adopters of a particular standard or of certain attributes of data within a standard. It's a means to give you an indicator of adoption and where your data management efforts and investment should be made. So very quickly, by bringing down the ACES catalog standard, you can see that there is one company capable of receiving, one company capable of sending. And that's the same for all the standards that are listed here. The industry adoption report is also downloadable in Excel, which is a handy feature to allow you to share it amongst your colleagues and data stakeholders. And there, pretty well, is the 5-step process to AftermarketMatch.com. And with that, I'd like to hand it back to you, Chris and Scott.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Scott, and then Jeff. I think everyone now has a great view of how simple Aftermarket Match is to use and how powerful it can be, and between the matching and the reports and usage adoption, it's a great tool for the industry. So now we'd like to address a few questions, and as we're answering the questions, a couple of questions we have, remember to use the chat tool in your panel to submit any other questions, and we will address those in the next 10 or 15 minutes. We'll get started with this one. Jeff, I think this is probably a question for you or for PriceDex. Is there a limit to the number of users and matches that Aftermarket Match can manage?
Thanks, Chris. Actually, no, there's virtually no limit to the number of users, to the number of standards, to the number of companies, and to the number of matches that the system can store. So everybody should be able ultimately to get an absolutely complete, full profile of all their trading relationships. Okay, here's another question. This is probably a good one for Scott. It says, how quickly will standard updates be posted to the AftermarketMatch.com site?
Thanks, Jeff. A good question there. We manage a few standards here at AAIA and follow a standards publication management process that requires 60 to 90 days advance notice between the candidate release and the general release of a specification. In that time, the standards will be shared with Aftermarket Match. Our goal is to ensure that any revisions and version changes are published to Aftermarket Match on or before the day of general release. Looks like we have another question, and this is for folks who may have jumped on board with Aftermarket Match when it was first announced at the Marco Island meeting or at Apex. And they ask, if I previously registered, will my company information be available online? Chris, can you take that one?
Yeah, Scott, I can. That's a good question because we do have several dozen individuals and companies who have registered so far. Some are starting to use it. But all the registration from current registrants from the point where we first made Aftermarket Match available, like you said, since last fall, all that information is still in the system. So that will not have to be re-entered. Login and password and all those capabilities or credentials are still usable. And so for anybody who's already in there, there's no reason to not just go ahead and jump back in and continue using it. That was a good question.
So Chris, actually, does that mean that everybody who has received an email confirming their user credentials, I just want to clarify, anybody who has received their, has submitted their registration at AftermarketMatch.com and has received a confirmation of their credentials, they can just go directly log into the system?
That's correct. They can log in. They should have their login credentials. If not, contact us through the email at the website, and we'll work that out. But just registering, that's just the beginning, as was demonstrated. It's time at that point to log in and add your capabilities and requirements and start matching. Do we have any other questions?
Chris, this is Scott. I'd like to share an observation. We're really grateful for the folks who've shown up for this orientation. Hopefully you're as excited as we are about the power and value of this service to the industry. On behalf of Chris and Jeff, we'd like to enlist all of you as our evangelists. Please tell your trading partners about Aftermarket Match. Tell them you'd like to be able to see their capabilities and share your capabilities. This becomes very useful when lots of people adopt it and list their standards capabilities. So it doesn't cost anybody a thing, and it's easy to help spread the word. I also want to point out on every page of the website there are links to contact us if you have any questions or suggestions for Aftermarket Match, and there is technical support available as well if anything unanticipated should happen or if you get stuck. Thank you.
Excellent. Well said. Thank you so much. If we don't have any other questions, and I don't see any others in the chat tool, Jeff or Scott, did you see or come across any others that we needed to address?
No, I don't think so, Chris.
Okay. Excellent. Well, just to remind everybody, or to state for the first time if we haven't said it, we are recording today's webinar, and we'll be making this available in a file, downloadable file on the website. If you need to share this with others inside your companies or with trading partners. And again, a reminder, Aftermarket Match is a simple but functionally robust tool. It's designed by aftermarket technology leaders for aftermarket technology leaders. And as Scott just said, we encourage you to use it, add capabilities, requirements to match, and tell others to match. With that, we do thank you for joining us today. We hope everybody has a great day, and we look forward to seeing you use Aftermarket Match more and more in the future. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.